The base has dropped on a Boxing Day edition of Soccer Down here, December 26th. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday as well, so we'll be taking your questions throughout the show. And your theme, your topic for the day is, what are your questions heading into 2019? They can be MLS, they can be USL, they can be soccer in the United States, they can be men's national team, they can be women's national team, they can be Atlanta United, they can be Orlando, they can be Minnesota, wherever you want to take it. You can ask those questions on a Wall Pass Wednesday. But what are your questions going into 2019 now that we are less than a week away? I'm Jason Longshore. John Nelson's in the back of a car heading from Alabama to Georgia. Jarrett Smith
still
is plotting. Oh, he will be. He's in a car, so I figured he'd be moving at some point, maybe. Anyway, Jarrett Smith is plotting the new edition of Cricket Down Under, sponsored by KFC, which is
Seventh Hour.
Yes.
Wacky.
Seventh Hour also plotting whether or not he should buy a Tim Weah Celtic kit down the road.
Dude.
So.
Yeah, tell everybody about Tim Weah, who we've been wanting to see get more time with PSG, who has not been able to do so, who is now headed to Glasgow. Allegedly, or is it done?
Allegedly, but it's like all the signs are kind of there. Like, he started following the team and every player on the team on Instagram. You know, the classic way we solve our riddles in modern society, by checking who's everyone's following on Instagram.
It's valid.
So, look, he'll get to play. They don't really have a striker right now. They got really one striker on the roster because Lee Griffiths is on an indefinite leave, so there's going to be chances to play. And just do what Moussa Dembele did, and log a hat trick against Rangers in an Old Firm match, and you'll never have to buy a drink in Glasgow again. That's really all there is to it.
Is Tim Weah of drinking age?
Man, I don't think so, and I'm not sure it matters in Glasgow.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. In Glasgow, it might not matter. That might not be a good thing. Let's scratch that whole comment about not having to buy a drink, Tim Weah. Please, let's focus on the game, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because we've had these debates about Scotland versus MLS and where it stands, and playing for Celtic will be interesting. They've got a Europa League tie with Valencia coming up. They got out of the group stage. They backed into a spot in the out of the group stages. So he'll get a little bit of European competition there. Otherwise, it's mostly just going to be playing Scottish League teams, which can vary from entertaining and challenging to just downright rough to watch. And the level of competition is going to vary, and it's not necessarily always going to be high. So whatever you take out of this, if nothing else, he could come out of this with a good bit of confidence and a little rough and tumbleness to him. If you wanted him to go somewhere and pick up the ability to play a rougher game and be able to handle the physicality, that's not a bad place to go. If you wanted him to go somewhere and face top flight competition week in, week out, there are better places to go.
Well, and he's going to be playing as a number 9 at Celtic, right? And that's not somewhere we've really seen him a ton of places. We've generally seen him out wide.
I would assume, yeah, he'll be playing as a number 9. It's Brendan Rodgers' system, so. There were times last year where you had Lee Griffiths and Moussa Dembele on the field at the same time. Then sometimes you had them, one then the other. This will be very interesting, and especially if the rumored Johnny Russell thing is real too. Then, man, Celtics going to be weird. But it all could fall apart at the last minute. It could go somewhere else. I do understand people having concerns perhaps about this, on the sense that it's not the best place to go if you're looking for top competition week in, week out, because you're going to play some lower level teams in Scotland, and it can, you're not always going to dance around and score 3 goals a game just because it's lower competition, but it's not always going to be a challenge, I think, in terms of just the technical skill.
Something that won't change yet in 2019, but I'll be glad when it does, is the never-ending debate about which league is better, this league sucks, this league's good, you should go play here, you shouldn't go here. I'll be glad when that stops and just realize that there are good situations and bad situations in every league. And there's a certain level of decency that's required, sure. But for a player to go to Scotland, for some players, that's a good thing. For some players, no, that's not a good thing. For some clubs in Scotland, yes, you want to go there. Some, no, don't go anywhere near that club. Some managers you want to play for and you're going to learn from. Some, nope, you're not going to learn a thing. It's not this cut and dried thing, because then what happens is it goes to the next level of, oh, well, Atlanta United couldn't beat Celtic. They would just get pounded. Or, oh, they couldn't even beat Motherwell, or that type of nonsense. Just can we stop doing all that? Because the way the game is played in Celtic and in Scotland in general is very, very, very different than it's played in MLS. And you're going to have conflicts of style as much as conflicts of quality. So let's just stop being pedantic about it, please. Can we stop that for 2019?
Well, it sounds like Kolo Touré, who spent his last few years in Glasgow before joining the coaching staff, had a hand in him coming. If he goes, it's been reported that Kolo Touré was a part of this kind of recruitment team. He was the Ed Orgeron of this outfit, or the Mel Tucker, so to speak, helping recruit Tim Weah to go up to Glasgow. And I think a part of it might be go play under Brendan Rodgers for a bit. Rodgers has had success in the past with young strikers. You had Dembele go up there when he was 20. Get sold on for a nice little mint. He had his share of attacking players at Liverpool. Now, whether you think he had a big hand in their development, I guess depends on the person and depends on the situation. But it might have been part of it as well. As somebody might have said, you go play under Brendan for 6 months and see what happens.
Exactly. Now that's the point here. Is you're going to a manager who think what you want. I think Brendan Rodgers had success at Liverpool. Klopp has come in and taken it to another level, but Rodgers is a good manager, and he's developed young players. So it's a good spot for Weah to play under him. There's going to be some games in this league that are bad. There's games in the French league that are bad. I mean, if you haven't watched Ligue 1, go try it. Have fun. Watch PSG against the 19th or 20th team in the league and see how that goes. Yeesh. And Jarrett, did you honestly just compare Kolo Touré to Ed Orgeron out loud?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I did.
The
gist I got from everything was that Kolo was what I saw reported sounds like Kolo was on the recruitment train trying to get Weah up there.
But Kolo speaks much better English.
It's more understandable, yes, and I'm not sure it's his first or second language.
No, it's not, but it's far more understandable. I mean,
yes.
He doesn't. I don't think he needs subtitles. Orgeron absolutely needs subtitles.
There's no
Orgeron.
battle with
I don't think Orgeron dances as well as Kolo Touré does either.
Yeah. All right, here's a question to kick things off on a Wall Pass Wednesday. John, you can have at it first. What in the world is Minnesota doing? Why are they spending $1.2 million on a transfer fee and $1.2 million in salary for another holding midfielder when they just spent $3 million on another guy? And this guy hasn't come out of the Swedish league. He's only played in the Swedish top flight. That's it.
Manny gonna Manny?
At some point, that's got to stop being an excuse.
I'm not using it as the excuse. I'm just using it as point of fact until further notice. Is that to expect this kind of maneuver from Minnesota, and when things go off the rails in their new building, I give it maybe 6 matches if things are off the rails where folks start getting swept out the door. I wish the Twellman drop was.
But here's the thing.
Close.
No, here's the thing, and this is where you've got to be consistent. What leads you to believe that they would make rash moves in 5 or 6 games? What in their history has shown you to think that they would do that?
0.
So then they're not going to do it. So why would they all of a sudden start saying, "Oh yeah, man,
a
this
man
is bad.
can
Now
hope,
you're fired."
can't he?
But we're not about hope. We're about trying to explain things, and there's no track record of Minnesota doing that. And honestly, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of doing somebody's been there for 5 games and it struggled. Yeah, we're talking about Frank de Boer. Yes, that comes into play here too. You don't give somebody the reins to make a team and then say, nope, you screwed up. We're only 5 games in, but yep, it's time to bail. That doesn't work. And you've made this bed with Manny Lagos and with Adrian Heath now going into the third year. You can't do it so quick at the end of a transfer window, which honestly, I mean, I think 5 games in, the transfer window would still be open. So I think you got to go to the summer window. I think you got to go to that summer window and say, okay, you're investing a lot of money and you're putting it into these 2 guys who we're skeptical, but you get till summer. I mean, and that even worries me that they would make a move then. But I think at that point in the new stadium, you have to consider the move if it's that bad. If it's just bad, then it's a little bit different story. But
yes, but if it's that bad, then you have to think about it.
But let's also look at the other side of it. You know, you're signing 2 defensive midfielders. One is more of a 6, one's more of an 8. It shouldn't be that bad. You should be a little more secure there. That should allow Darwin Quintero to go be ridiculous. That should allow Miguel Ibarra to go play. I don't know who's going to score the goals. We'll have to see. Maybe Angelo Rodriguez if he keeps going. But there's questions about Minnesota all over. If these moves are okay, not even outstanding, but okay, they should be at least a little more difficult to break down.
Yeah.
I mean, Jarrett, here's a little story for you. This guy, Fouad, they call him Fred Bachiru. He is a French-born Cameroonian international footballer who plays for Malmo. He also played for Greenock Morton. You want to tell us about them? Scottish expert Jarrett Smith.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Okay.
I'm limited.
That bad, huh?
That bad.
I mean, are they like?
I mean, I don't even know
Scottish Championship. I know that.
I'm about to say I'm not even sure where they're in right now.
Okay, so Jarrett Smith, Scottish expert, does not know about this club. That
no, I know of them. I just didn't know where they were in the. I don't know. I didn't know if they were in the championship or what.
He has lost track of them, and that's where Bachiru played the majority of his games.
I mean, here's the thing: Morton every now and then, kind of jumps up and grabs somebody in the cup competitions that you don't think they have any business grabbing. It happens, but it's not necessarily something you always write home about.
So it looks like he has a couple of caps for Comoros. Yes, that's the thing, Comoros. And he went to Malmo in January of 2018. Okay.
Yes. Malmo's been one of those clubs that's kind of played jump rope with Champions League and Europa League over the years.
Yeah, but he just went there.
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even like, wow, this guy, okay, he's playing at Malmo. Like some other guys who came over from Malmo and didn't really cut it in this league. It's not even that. He just went to Malmo. He's been there for a year. He was at Östersunds before that. And he spent the majority of his career in terms of appearances at Greenock Morton. But $1.2 million and $1.2 million in salary. How about it?
Why not?
Okay. We'll see, Minnesota. I'm a little baffled, but we'll see.
I think
what happens.
I think it's fair to be skeptical. I mean, over a lot of the moves they've made, just haven't. There's not only have they not worked out, they've kind of just imploded in the hangar. Yeah, I think it's fair to be skeptical. I mean, you still want to see it play out, but I think people have reason to be skeptical after what's gone on.
100%, and there's 2 reasons to be skeptical here. Minnesota, pretty much all of their European signings have had question marks. And now combined with multiple players who have come over from Sweden and have not been able to hack it. Yeah, you got to wonder about these types of signings. You have to when you look at what other teams in the league are doing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Minnesota, but that's out there on the table. We'll see if it gets done and if those numbers are correct, because that's maybe the bigger thing to me. If you got him for a lot cheaper, it's a different conversation. But near a max TAM deal and a $1.2 million transfer. I don't know. And I don't know how you honestly make that work without being a designated player. Well, no, it depends on the length of the contract, because the transfer fee would be spread over the length of the contract. That might put you up to a max TAM type of deal, or you're using a lot of GAM to buy somebody down, depending on what they have. That's a lot of resources to a player who has played the most games in his career with a team that's in the Scottish Championship.
Man, I'm looking at this. Falkirk's about to get relegated down to League One. Wow. And Partick Thistle's right down there, too. Good Lord, Scotland. Fun fact, Mornock actually won the Scottish Championship in 1922, because that's relevant.
I don't think Botcheroo played in that team. I think he was not there
No,
yet.
but DeMarcus Beasley may have.
That's very possible that he might have, or at least faced up against them when he was at Rangers decades ago, because DeMarcus Beasley invented the game and brought it to the United States. All right.
Playing with Tommy Thompson.
Yes. We're going to take a break. We'll get into your questions on a Wall Pass Wednesday. What are your questions about 2019? Send them our way on Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, December 26th. It's Boxing Day. There's lots of games going on in England at the moment. Fulham and Wolves are 1-1 in stoppage time. Wolves just saved one off the line. Defender slid almost through the back of the goal, but he made the save. So 1-1 there. Lots of games going on the rest of the week. There have been pictures of lines all the way down the street at the Boxing Day scarf exchanges that Atlanta United has been doing, since 2014.
Yeah,
2014. They did it the first, and they didn't have the Atlanta United scarf then, obviously. If it wasn't 2014, it was definitely 2015. I think it was 2015, actually, is when it started. They've been doing these at the Brew House and at Fido since then, and there were lines down the street, people trying to do this to get the limited edition Boxing Day scarf, because y'all are crazy.
Yes. How cool is that people are this wacky on Boxing Day?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty wacky. It's kind of bonkers. It's all of the above. All right, let's scroll back into the timeline and start getting into the Wall Pass Wednesday questions. Ricky Ricardo got us started. And he said, hope y'all had a Merry Christmas. Early Wall Pass Wednesday question. Given DeBoer's coaching style, who from the academy, who haven't featured for Atlanta United 2 yet, will benefit the most from his system. Excited to see new faces to look out for in 2019 and beyond. That's a good question. I think one who will benefit, who would have been seen by now but hasn't, is George Campbell. Center back. He's partnered with Kendall Edwards before in the academy. He was on track to play for Atlanta United too, but badly timed injury kept him out. So George Campbell is a athletic center back who, if I had to compare him to somebody, I'd go Eddie Pope, in that he's very athletic. He covers a ton of range. He's more technical than you might think, but he's able to use his athleticism so often to get out of trouble. I think he could really benefit from some work with DeBoer because, I mean, he could play that left-sided center back role that DeBoer was a star at in his career and would probably be able to give him a lot of insight. So he's one that I'm looking to. Another one who we didn't get a chance to see at the end of the season is Will Vent from Manchester United's academy. I would expect we'd see him with Atlanta United too. I think that would have happened regardless. Other guys in the academy that could be a good fit here looking ahead. One I'm intrigued about, and I wonder if he's ready for that jump yet, is Takuma Suzuki, holding midfielder, originally from Japan. Jarrett knows him. Super technical. The only thing you wonder about is in the 4-3-3 that DeBoer likes to play with a six by themselves. Is he physical enough to sit and do that? He's technical enough. He's going to move the ball very, very well. But is he physical enough in that role? I think we'll see him get an opportunity with the twos this year. Anybody else, Jarrett, that we have not seen with the twos yet that has stood out to you at different points in the academy?
Did you go? I'm jumping on halfway through this conversation. Trying to think who was. Suzuki was the guy in the back of my head, honestly, who was popping into mind just because of how technical he is and how much fun he is to watch. Did you go over Brighton?
No, because we can't see him with Atlanta United too now because he's a college guy.
Yeah,
so.
He's on college now. Never mind.
Yeah.
He was one I was interested to see just because of the combination of size, strength, and technical ability that I think if you looked at him physically, you wouldn't think he is as technically sound as he is. But out of guys in the academy right now, I'm not sure. I'd have to take a look and, put both hands down on the soil and see what I come up with.
Yeah, Suzuki's probably the wild card that hasn't been in the mix yet. I mean, Campbell and Vent came so late, but if he had integrated quickly and been comfortable, he probably would have jumped it straight into 2 games last year. And Campbell definitely was going to play with the twos, just had bad luck with the injuries. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see. I'll be more curious to see how involved DeBoer's staff is with the academy coaches and all the way down to the younger guys. Like I'll be really looking forward to seeing that impact on the overall academy and down to guys who we won't see with the twos for 2 or 3 years. That's pretty cool.
I mean, we saw him already. I really want to see more of Nat Neil McDonald.
Yeah, McDonald's a guy with his speed that would definitely be a fit. He's probably come the longest from day one of the academy to now. And I think he's got potential. I think he's got an opportunity here. He makes things happen. He's one of those guys that has that X factor about him that you look at him and you can find reasons to say, well, he's not going to make it. He's not quite good enough here. He's not quite good enough at this, but he makes plays. He makes things happen. And you find a spot for guys like that.
Go ahead.
Oh,
sorry. The last guy I can think of is Cheik Fofana.
He is in college.
Did he go already? Wow,
he went to he was a little bit older than you thought at the beginning. He went to Tyler Junior College and lit up the JUCO scene. So I'm curious to see where he ends up from there. I believe he's got one more year at Tyler before he goes D1. And he was one of the leading scorers, if not the leading scorer in the JUCO scene in 2018.
Well, we talk all the time about guys develop at different rates. Some guys hit that peak really early. Some guys need to go to college. Some guys need to take a circuitous route. And some guys go through JUCO and just kind of take the steps as they come. They're not always giant steps, but those little bitty steps, you take enough of them, they add up.
Yeah, Fofana was very raw, and I think he needed that time. And he also just needed to change an environment, just somewhere different, so he gets some different input, different voices, a little more well-rounded, all those types of things. Just needed to experience things a little bit more. And Tyler's a great program. Tyler sent a lot of guys forward into the Division I level and also into MLS. So keep an eye on Chief Fofana out of Tyler JUCO and out of the Atlanta United Academy. Shiva on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Good morning. Merry Christmas to you all. I hope our new coach can deliver on the pitch, but what concerns me more is the locker room. We have pretty dominant South Americans, and some have strong personalities. LGP, Joseph. Can he develop a relationship with them like Tata did so they want to play for him? John, what do you think?
No, I think that the fact, first and foremost, that DeBoer has the on-the-pitch pedigree that he has, I think, A. B, what he was able to do as a coach, and C, the fact that he speaks multiple languages and can communicate what he wants however he feels he needs to. So I'm pretty confident coming out of the blocks. Obviously, there's that period of adjustment and getting everybody to be on the same page with what DeBoer wants to do on the pitch through the training ground. But those 3 points for me lend itself to sitting there saying, yeah, there's going to be a transition time, but I think they'll be okay.
Jarrett, what about you? What do you think?
I think it's just going to be a matter of adjustment, but I think it's possible. Look, you had a lot of cultures in that locker room. I know it's dominated by the Latin cultures from South America, but they weren't the only ones in there. And guys found common ground, and they built that camaraderie. I think finding that middle ground and just the style of play is going to help. I don't think it's a bad thing with what you've done and gone and gotten a coach who's necessarily not from that culture. It doesn't have to be a problem. And I think you just ask guys to be patient and come in with open hearts and open minds on everything. And you'll be in really good shape with the talent you've got. And then beyond that, a lot of the leaders, because you look at some of the leaders from the South American contingency, such as an LGP, who already is kind of that bridge culturally. I think guys like him, guys like Parkhurst, Lorenowitz can be really important in terms of leadership, helping just kind of bridge the gap, and not just keep guys in line and help guys, adjust to a new manager, but be the bridge for the manager to the other cultures and to the players.
Yeah, I think Leandro and Parkey become really, really important here, along with Jeff and Brad, in terms of kind of being that connection point between the coaching staff and the playing staff. Every team's different. Every club has a different personality with it. In some, the playing staff is completely separate from the technical staff. And some, they work a little more hand in hand. I think under Tata Martino, he liked working a little more closely with the players and having more of a closer personal relationship with them. DeBoer, we don't know yet. He might not. And I think they'll all find their way, because you've got a group of players that want to defend their championship and want to actually take it to another level and win more trophies in 2019. And you've got a guy in DeBoer who's going to come in and he's trying to rebuild, his coaching reputation. And that chip on his shoulder is not going to get in the way of the team playing well. I think he realizes, the best way for him right now to regain respect around the world as a manager is to win. And he's going to do what it takes to win. So that's the question for me coming into the season is, what is that chemistry like? And it will be different. And how long does it take for it to be comfortable? I don't know. It's going to be a different mentality. It's going to be a different type of voice. It's going to be a different vibe. And is that good that it's a different vibe? Because a lot of times it is. After a couple of years, change is good. Or does it take a little more time for that vibe for everybody to get on the same page? That's what we'll see. Honestly, in some ways, I think being in CONCACAF straight away helps because you're not going to have a whole lot of time to mess around. So it's just going to be getting straight down to business. And I think that does help in terms of creating that vibe and just getting everything focused on success and results. You know, CONCACAF being the first thing out of the gate, that kind of helps in that regard. So I think that could be a good thing. Daniel Graham chimed in as well. He said, with the core of our team coming back, I don't think we'll have any problems in the locker room. Leaders like Parkey, LGP, Nagby, one we didn't mention, will hold us together. Will it be the same as Tata? No, it can't be. Even if we'd brought in another South American legendary name, it would be different. Shiva then asks a question that I want to ask both of you guys about. I love Joseph, but his swagger may not sit as well with some managers. Not really a question, statement. So, John, if you are coming into a locker room and you have a player like Joseph, who, yeah, he's a little different, but he's also pretty good. Yeah. How do you deal with that if it's maybe a little different than you're used to or would like to see in a perfect world?
Well, I think first and foremost, you've got to have a sit and figure out where Joseph is coming from as a person on the pitch and off, and then I think that he and DeBoer, get together, break some bread, perhaps, and sit there and say, okay, here are my goals. Here are my goals. Then where is that Venn diagram? And to figure out where your common ground is, and then work out from there. So for me, it's instead of A versus B, it's try to figure out where A equals B and then building out the relationship from there. I think because of the amount of time that you don't have in getting everything prepared, I think it starts from more of an understanding of where each individual's coming from and then building the relationship from there, as opposed to sitting there and saying, this is my way, this is my way. No, it's common ground first and then build it out.
Well, I think for any manager, if you come in and say it's my way, no, you're going to fail in 2019. I think flat out. If you come into a situation, especially to a successful team, and you say my way or the highway, I think 2019, if you do that approach, you're going to fail. And I think the coaches you see in any sport right now that are going old school with that approach are failing. Flat out. That's not how players work anymore. That's not how personalities work anymore. And even beyond that, take this back 20 years. If you walk into a locker room that just won a title and you start demanding things are my way or not, I think you're going to fail then. That would be the biggest mistake that could be made. And I don't think that's going to happen here, because this is a guy in Frank de Boer who played at Ajax, but then also played at Barcelona, which is a very different culture, played in Turkey, played in Scotland. He's been in different places as a player. He's also played with a national team that had to come together with different players, different personalities, different skill sets. So I agree that I think that sit down needs to happen, I think, with everybody. So you get to know everybody and how they tick. But coming into this situation, it'd be different if you were walking into Minnesota and there's really not a culture you want to build upon. Here, and it's been something that's been talked about a lot, you're trying to add to the culture that is already here, not change it. And I think that's critical. I think the old school ways of thinking for coaches, managers, of I'm in charge and it's my rules, I don't think those work anymore. I really don't. And I don't think that's how Frank de Boer is looking at it coming in, even if he is a different personality than Tata Martino, Jarrett. I don't think he's coming in here to try to rule the roost like that.
No, and I think he knows better. He's a former player. He understands how guys tick. And I think that does help when you have a manager who played, who understands, kind of the rigors. And more importantly, I think what's important for him is he understands playing in a different culture than what you're used to. It's not like it'd be great. It's great to have a former player, manage who knows and understands about being a player. I think in this case, it's even better when you have a guy like a Frank DeBoer, or like when it was Tata coming here, who, not as much with Tata since he played so much in Argentina, but who's played in a different environment or different culture like DeBoer did in Barcelona. And I think he can help empathize a bit with a lot of the South American contingency, and especially a guy like Joseph, I get it, when you're in a different culture. And, I think Tata helped with this about, tune out some of that noise. When people would get frustrated with Joseph about stuff, remember, it feels like an eon ago, but it really was just this year when people were losing their mind about Joseph being offside. Is he lazy? Is he this? Is he that? And I think having a guy like DeBoer can help, reach out to him and say, I understand, frustrations that sometimes come with, playing in a distant land, and that, he's a unique individual. DeBoer's probably played with, coached unique individuals before, and understands you have to take a different hand with everybody. And that's, I think, one of the things about being a manager that sometimes gets overlooked. It's not just the tactics. It's not just the man management and in a blanket statement as we say it, but part of that man management is understanding, sometimes it's the carrot, sometimes it's the stick, and sometimes it's a heavy hand, sometimes it's a light hand, but it varies with each individual. Every person is different emotionally, and Joseph is a unique one. But when you harness him, you see what he's capable of. I think DeBoer understands that. And I think given his scale with this team and his importance and the gravity with not just the team, but with the city, I think that's kind of understood with DeBoer. And I think that's probably something that was discussed ahead of time, in the interviews of, how do you deal with a guy like that who carries such gravity, but you have to get the best out of him. How would you handle it? And I would assume that was a question that was asked because of how thorough the front office has been in the past, and he gave a suitable answer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The way you manage players like this is so important. I mean, it can even be more important than tactics a lot of times. Look, I think Frank DeBoer coming in, when he is coming in, off of a championship, off of success, it's a little bit easier for him. He's not trying to create a culture, make a culture. He's trying to, for him, it's an opportunity to learn about new cultures that he hasn't had as much experience with. And I think the fact that they've been successful makes him come in and maybe be a little bit more of sit back and learn about it. And how does he adapt a little bit to this locker room? Because it's going to be pretty consistent from last year. So this is, maybe one of the underlying stories about how things go is just how that relationship builds over time between the locker room and a new manager. I think it'd be the case with anybody. If they were South American, if they were American, if they were European, if they were Asian, African, it wouldn't matter. It would just be different because it's different. We're going to take a break, come back, more of your Wall Pass Wednesday questions after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apollinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apollinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apollinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and Shelter Pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Well past Wednesday, Boxing Day, December 26th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith with you this morning, taking your questions about 2019. What are your big questions going into 2019? Nathan Pugh had one. He asks, think it will take 70 points to win the Supporter Shield each season moving forward? Toronto, Atlanta, Red Bulls, anomalies, or new bar setters? What do you think, John?
Next year, I would say no, just because of how I think that it's probably Atlanta United and everybody else. I don't think it'll take 70 next year. You know, if you look at
no, that's not necessarily the question. Not about will it take 70. Is that the new bar? Because I keep going. I could absolutely take your argument and say that 70 is what Atlanta will get.
Well, because of everybody being not as. I'm speaking English very goodly this morning. I think that because of where Atlanta United is and where we anticipate the other teams that competed in the Eastern Conference for the crown may be, I think that Atlanta United could get to 70 next season. I was looking at it initially as, you know, a two-way fight or a three-way fight, and making sure that 70 is what you're going to need in one of those battles to get the crown. To your point, I could see where Atlanta United could get to 70 next season. I was interpreting the question as new bar in a battle going forward with more than one team, but I see where you were coming from.
Yeah, I look at it as I think you're starting to see more separation, and that means you're having some teams that are going to earn more points, period, because they're better teams.
Right.
So the Western Conference, I think, will beat itself up because of the parity over there between Kansas City. I think Portland will still be in that mix, although some don't. I think Seattle should still be in that mix. I think the Galaxy will get back into that mix if they ever make the right moves. I don't think it takes a ton for them to get back there. LAFC, right. If they make the right moves, they can be there. I don't think there's huge separation between the teams we just mentioned. In the East, depending on Red Bulls and how they replace Tyler Adams, maybe Aaron Long if he goes to Europe. Beyond Atlanta and Red Bulls, I think it's a big drop-off. And NYC, I don't know if they're going to be any closer to the top two. Probably not because of losing David Villa. Beyond that, I mean, who else is there that's going to be there? Who else is going to be pushing close? DC could be, especially if they get Lucas Rodriguez, and it sounds like that deal is all but done. So that could help a lot for DC United. Can they push into the top two? Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. It's a big question.
That's 9 syllables worth of may in your maybe.
Yes. Philadelphia, don't see it. Montreal, I think they'll get into the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be a top two. I think the top two, which might be a top one, will definitely be separate, and I think they'll pick up a lot of points. So I could see that 70 is that new bar if you have separation between your top group and the rest of the pack.
Yeah, no, like I said, I was initially viewing it as, you know, if you have 2 teams or more who are getting separation from everybody else, is 70 that bar, and I think it is, but I think that with separation, 70 might be quote unquote easier to get to.
Jarrett, what about you? You think 70 is the new number for Supporter Shield?
Is it the new orange making up the new black?
Jarrett will marinate on that. I thought he was back, but he's still he is at the station doing things, so he gets pulled away. It's all good.
Multitask.
Yeah, we got to do it. Next question, Andy Hollums. Any chance Josh Wolf joins DeBoer's staff in Atlanta, or is he definitely going to the men's national team if he doesn't get a managerial job? I don't think he's definitely doing anything. I would not say that, Andy. There's no connection between him and Frank DeBoer, so I don't know why that would happen. I think DeBoer is going to bring in people that he's comfortable with. And John Nason asked about any news regarding the coaching staff you're hearing. I haven't heard anything. The name that's been linked is Orlando Trustfall, who has been with DeBoer at Ajax, at Inter, at Crystal Palace. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come at all. You need those people that you've been with. That's how these coaching staffs work. It's consistent all the way around the world. So I would be shocked if Josh Wolf was part of it, just because there's no connection that I know of between him and DeBoer. Is he definitely going to the men's national team? I don't know if that's a definite. I think it's possible because of his connection with Berhalter. But I think from some of the different reports out there, Wolf is getting a little, impatience probably not the right word, but just his confidence is growing in terms of being ready to take a coaching job of his own. And I don't know if he wants to go to the national team. There might not be a coaching job for him right now, though. And that could lead him to take that maybe on a short-term basis. But I don't expect him to be here in Atlanta just because I don't expect there to be any connection between the two. What do you think's the best spot for Josh Wolf in 2019, John?
I would have thought the national team, just off the just instant analysis, because I'd like to see him continue to help out places where I think that he can do the most good. And I think that really for Josh, it's, do you want to be a 3, a 4, or a 5 on a staff, or do you want to be, a 2 or a 3? And where do you best see yourself being served? And for me, I would have personal preference. I'd love.
He's a 2. He's a 2. He's not a 3 or a 4 or a 5. He's a 2. So he's a 2 now.
But what I'm saying is that just to be employed, do you take a 3 or 4 gig?
No.
Knowing that you're a 2.
No.
Just to get a paycheck.
No, because you've been a 2. You don't slide back, and that's not how it works. That might be how it works in other sports. That's not how it works here. He's been an assistant, but no, he's been an assistant. When you go to the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th guy on the group, that's a whole different world. He's been Berhalter's guy. Why would he slide back into the case with the national? Why would he go further back in the national team if Berhalter's the guy there? If he is, I'm not taking it. Why would I take a demotion to stay with you in a different place? There's no logical explanation for that. So, and he's not going to go restart somewhere else in a lower position because he's been a 2 with a team that has had great success in Columbus. So for him, it's either go still be an assistant with Berhalter, or wait for your gig. And your gig might be in USL as a number 1, or go be a number 2 with somebody that you're going to learn from, but never to go further back in the scale. No.
But no, for me, it was to stick with the national team and be right there with Berhalter. That was my...
If he's gonna say, well, I like you, Josh, but you've been in this role for me before, and now I'm gonna demote you to this to come to the national team. Bye.
Nah.
That's an insult.
Yes. So for me, it would have been hang as a 2 with the national team. That would have been where I'd like to see Josh.
Yeah, maybe. I would like to see him in a managerial job sooner rather than later. I think he's got the personality for it. I think he's picked up good experience in it. Pretty highly regarded. the work he's done at Columbus has been good from, what we know. We don't know exactly what he's done specifically as part of the group. But overall, it's been impressive. It's been one of the better coach teams in the league, so he's played a role in that. I think Austin is a possibility. He's had a relationship from a professional situation with Precourt Sports Ventures, so
right.
Would not surprise me at all if they wanted to bring him in. Now, you have to figure out what you're going to do over the next couple of years because you're not going to have a team on the field. But if you're involved in building the team from scratch and you get to be that first guy, that's pretty appealing too.
Yes. And, to be out in the community, to lay that groundwork, I could totally see something like that where he's building something for a couple of seasons, hitting the ground running and being a part of the fabric of something from the absolute, because we've seen what that can be like here in Atlanta.
Yeah, it can be definitely valuable, and we'll see where Josh Wolf ends up. I don't think he's a career assistant. I think he's going to be a number one sooner rather than later. The question is where. Let's take our final break of hour number one. We'll be back after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Final segment, hour number one of a Boxing Day, Wall Pass Wednesday edition of Soccer Down Here. Final question in the first hour comes from Adam Mulligan. He says, I wonder if DeBoer and Joseph might find common ground around their experiences in Serie A. John, what do you think?
Well, I think it goes back to the discussion that we had earlier, that if you have that common ground, regardless of where it is, you can sit there and say, okay, well, here's what I experienced. What about you? Yeah, this is what I experienced. What about you? And then who was it that had the thought? Dalton says DeBoer managed an Ajax who had Luis Suarez. I think he'll be fine with Joseph. So in combining those two comments, I was sitting there and looking at that going, yeah, I think that there's some common ground and appreciation for past locations and ability and what you were able to do on the pitch. So I would agree with Dalton's perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, Luis Suarez was maybe not quite as crazy at Ajax. I think he went a little crazier later, but probably still had crazy in him.
Case of the munchies.
Yeah, but that's different. I mean, what Adam's saying, I think, is a way for those two to find that common ground. I mean, I want that conversation starter. It's, hey, man, I know you had a tough time in Torino. let me tell you about my time at Milan. And they both laugh and share a coffee or share a tea, and then everybody puts their arm around one another and laughs about it and moves on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah. No, I think that there's common ground that can come from a bunch of different places, and I think that in those conversations they'll definitely find it. And they'll just take a little bit getting used to each other. That's all.
Yeah, and Rachel Affleck has a good point. Says, I would think a call to Tata and all the players has happened, so he will know what to expect from Joseph. Maybe. I mean, maybe not. Tata might not want to take that call because it's not his team anymore. And managers are very respectful of one another in the sense that you're not going to chime in on somebody else's group that you used to have because that's not fair to the new guy. Maybe they've traded messages. Maybe they've traded documents. Who knows? I could also see more of that happening from the players. So I think we overblow how big of it or what to expect from Joseph. Like, he's not that difficult. This is a guy who doesn't go out and is getting in trouble. This is a guy who plays and is ruthless in front of goal and gives you everything he has on the field and plays with personality and can do a lot of different things on the field and is fearless. I don't think he's a problem or a distraction or any of these things that it's almost where this conversation is edging towards. This is not Deion Sanders. This is not D'Angelo Hall. This is not any of those things. This is just a player who plays. I mean, he has a personality on the field and a swagger on the field that grabs your attention, but I don't think he's trouble in any sense.
No. I would think I'm interpreting this as manager talking to one of the star players in the league. I'm not looking at this as me, Angelo, or prime time and getting adjusted to it if you're the incoming head coach for Marion Campbell or Dan Henning, who just got fired. No, I'm looking at this not from that perspective at all.
No, I'm not saying you were. I think just the questions about like how hard is he going to have a time dealing with Joseph. I don't think it's going to be hard at all. I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. So, just getting to know the personalities, I think that's what you're trying to accomplish here. Before we go to break, Brewhouse is out of scarves. I would assume Fido is either out or almost out. These things go fast, and I think they've printed more and more every year, and they still go fast. So, basically camp out next time if you want to get one of the Boxing Day scarves. We're going to go to break. We'll start looking on eBay and see what they're going for already, because I'm sure they're going for a pretty penny, or they will be. And we'll be back hour number 2 on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Share your questions about soccer in 2019 with us at Soccer Down Here. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and Shelter Pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Well past Wednesday edition of Soccer Down Here on Boxing Day, December 26th. All kinds of games kicking off in England right now. I think the majority of them are kicking off now. I don't know if there's a later one or not.
There is. There's
okay.
Chelsea and Watford, I think, is the 12:30 Eastern.
There you go. I think Juve is playing a Boxing Day game today, too, which is weird in Italy. I need a clarification from Nick Alifi on why and how often this happens, because I don't think it's common. I don't know. Italy's weird sometimes.
Yes.
Let's move. That's basically my expert analysis on it. Let's move on to the Colonel's question on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Darren Eales indicated some preseason matches might be scheduled with Mexican sides, and there is talk of preseason matches in California. Coincidence? I think not. Any info? When might the preseason schedule be released? Please discuss. I don't know where that came from. I have not seen this interview that many people have mentioned about Mexican sides in California. I have not seen it. I know nothing about it. I've said this a couple of times. I don't know where the source is coming from here. So, I mean, would it make sense as you're preparing for CONCACAF Champions League? Yeah, absolutely. You want to pick up the level of competition you're going to play in preseason for sure. But I don't know anything about it. So I don't know what to tell you. When might the preseason schedule be released? I would assume that was part of the conversations with Frank de Boer and the other managers that were interviewed about what that would look like. They probably didn't want to schedule too much until the new manager was in place and had input. And that's probably where we're at now, is finalizing things. So my guess is they'd want to announce it all as a block as opposed to announce a game here, a game there, this, that, and the other. So soon would be my guess. Maybe as soon as the end of this week, but probably next week would be my assumption. I think you'd probably start preseason if you're starting on the 14th. You'd probably start with fitness and work behind closed doors that you want to get done with the new manager, and then maybe try to get some games in starting in late January, the last week of January. Get a couple of weeks in or 10 days in of fitness and tactical work before you get out on the field in a match situation.
Equally important question from Michael Head, which probably has the same answer to the one that you just gave. A question of high importance. I feel like we need trumpet fanfare or something. When will the new primary kits with the star be available?
I don't know. Probably before either the first game at Herediano or the second leg at home. Maybe something like that. Last year they did the big event at the training ground for the King Peach kits. Do they do something like that? Do they tie it in with the Herediano game? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I would assume around that time, like mid-February or around the time of those games. Just
hashtag take money, please, from Michael.
Sure. But yeah, I don't know where the preseason matches and Mexican teams in California. I have no idea where that came from. If anybody has that interview, please tweet it at us, because that's one I have not seen anywhere.
Jacob Austin. With so many fans about to experience their first CONCACAF Champions League, how much of a hashtag overreaction Monday will that hashtag 5-stripe Friday after the game at Herediano be when Atlanta United inevitably don't look good on the road in Costa Rica? Come on, man.
Yeah, it'll be ridiculous. You got to think about this as playoffs, though. It's not about looking good. It's about surviving. And if you get through the first leg with a decent score line and you get Herediano in the second leg in Kennesaw, you should be fine. You know, you don't want to lose by 2. If you lose by 1, you get a goal, okay. If you get a draw, you're good. If you get a win, you're great. But, yeah, it's not about style points. It's just about surviving over the 180 minutes. So nothing's decided at the end of it. People will overreact for sure because there's a lot of expectations with it being DeBoer's first game and being potentially, you know, other players' first games with the team and all these types of things. They will definitely, the reactions will be fierce, but that's to be expected. That's the expectation level that is here now, and that's a good thing overall, even though it can be a little, you know, frustrating at times in the midst of it.
I was trying to figure out how to pronounce this next individual, and I think it's Stantone because of the umlaut over the O, and I was thinking of Lowenbrow, the beer. At Stanton III, aren't we getting new primary jerseys for 2019?
Yes.
But I think the umlaut over the O means it's Stantone as opposed to Stanton.
Sure, I guess. It wasn't Motley Crue.
So like I said, I was just trying to remember how Lowenbrow pronounced themselves with the umlaut over the O and applying it to Stanton.
But it wasn't Motley Crue. It didn't work that way there. So
Motley
you can
Crue?
pronounce it however you want. No, it wasn't that. Tommy Lee couldn't pronounce that.
Tommy Lee couldn't pronounce much of anything at points.
Well, that's also true. So it was just Motley Crue. So it's Stanton. Anyway, the Colonel shot me a message. It was on an interview where Darren was on with Dukes and Bell where he mentioned the California and Mexican teams. So that's why I haven't seen it in print. And I missed that one. So thank you, Colonel, because I kept wondering where this was coming from and had no idea. Like I said, it makes sense. I don't know what the timeline looks like, and I would assume that they wanted to get the manager's input before finalizing anything in terms of schedule and teams and this and that. So there you go. The Garlic Bread Warlord says it's a full Serie Oscillate today. Don't ask why, just enjoy.
Hey, the man dropped a 19-minute hot drop on Frank DeBoer, so he's in rare form as we get.
He's
toward the
allowed
end
to
of the
do whatever he
year.
wants.
Well,
yes,
we already knew that.
What was the question that you had for Jarrett at the beginning of the segment?
I don't remember.
Well, neither do I, because I wasn't here
Sorry.
for it. Now I'm hurt.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
That makes me think it was really good.
Nah. Overrated.
Yeah, I'm going back in the timeline, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, the Supporters Shield number at 70 points.
Yes. Is 70 the new Supporter Shield mark going forward, in your opinion, Jared?
I don't think it will be. I think there's going to be some years where that's the case, but I think these last 2 years have been really special, and I think as teams start to adapt to what MLS is now, I think it's kind of going to get pulled back to the pack a bit, for lack of a better term, and you might see 70 pop up sometimes, but I don't know if we're going to be consistently seeing 70 points. I think everything's going to come back to the pack a little bit. We're going to see a little more parity.
Okay.
I mean, there's going to be
that.
You're going to have some splits in terms of you're going to have some teams that just go out there and just maul folks like a hungry grizzly bear. But I think it's going to. I think you're going to have some splits. You're going to have your teams that are going to pull. And not to say these teams will forever be bad, but you'll have your teams that pull a Chicago, an Orlando, a San Jose kind of thing, where it's just not working for you. But I think there's going to be enough parity throughout the league we're not going to have necessarily 70 points every single year. And I don't think we'll get to 80 either. So there's that.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get to 80. I think that's that would be a...
Ooh.
That'd be an Arsenal
That'd be
undefeated
Herculean
kind of season. I mean, that's one of those that just is a once in a lifetime type of deal. I don't see that one.
That'd be amazing if somebody pulled a
Manchester City pulling
Immortals. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
Then lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, there's that. That could also happen.
Seattle Mariners, 110 wins.
114, sir.
Thank you. And then Brett Boone was never the same.
Why are we talking about Brett Boone?
I don't know. I think John just wants to make me sad.
You get those Herculean efforts, and then you get that first round flame out. That's where he was going, and so I couldn't think of a bigger first round flame out than the Seattle Mariners pulling a $114 and then just absolutely losing in the first round of their American League playoff that year. And then all of a sudden, Brett Boone's offensive numbers just were never the same ever again. Gee, I wonder why.
Well, that's because whoever the manager was decided to play a low block, or a mid block, excuse me. Then they got to the playoffs.
Was it Piniella?
It might have been Sweet Lou. Point is, he decided not to press in the playoffs. So
yes.
Hi, Dios mío. All right, we're going to take a break while we try to figure out what in the blue hell is going on. Send us questions for a Wall Pass Wednesday.
On the track somehow.
Please send us soccer questions, not Brett Boone questions, about what you're worried about or thinking about or predictions for 2019. Really, anything you want. We're going to talk about it in the next segment. Thanks.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apollinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apollinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apollinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Well past Wednesday edition of Soccer Down Here. We're taking your questions about 2019 and beyond. Send them our way on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith with you this morning. Let's get into some of the rumors around the league that have popped up recently. We've talked about a couple of them. Lucas Rodriguez is probably the biggest one at the moment. Luis Cesar Merlo out of TYC in Argentina says that the deal's done for Lucas Rodriguez from Estudiantes to move on to DC. Loan with an option to buy. And if they can get things sorted out with Acosta and Assad, you're looking at a pretty fearsome attacking group at DC United. And, you know, we were talking about top teams in the East. If they get Rodriguez, and he is what we think he could be, DC United could be there and challenge for the top of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I looked at that, and I think it was part of the discussion that we had on the other side of the holiday. And if you get that, and if you take what we saw with DCU last year, you add Lucas Rodriguez. For me, I would have them really as number 2 in the East, depending on how Red Bulls function in the offseason. So I would have them at 3, if not 2, with Atlanta United and Red Bulls in the East right now.
If they get Rodriguez done, I think they go to 3 for me. Red Bull is going to be 2 until they show that they're not 2. I mean, you have to respect what they've done over the years. Although I do have big questions about how they replace Tyler Adams, because the system is key for the Red Bulls, and they've got guys who can drop in. But Adams was able to transcend the system on a regular basis. So in a one-off, yeah, maybe you can just slot somebody in. Over a whole season, and when you're talking about who the top teams in the Eastern Conference are over that whole season, I don't think they have anybody who can slot in for Tyler Adams and give you the same level of performance. So they're 2 until they show that they're not, in my book.
Jarrett, where do you have Red Bulls? Or did he have to wander off briefly?
He wandered.
No, I have them.
Nope, there he is.
You got me for a few more minutes, like 2 minutes. Right now, I think Red Bulls for me are 3 or 4, and mostly because I think Atlanta gets to be number 1 because they're king of the hill and didn't lose any major pieces. Yes, you lost a manager, but you didn't lose any major pieces. And then after that, I don't know what to make of the rest of the East. Red Bulls will still be good, maybe not great. Because, I mean, look, they lose Tyler Adams, and I get it, but it's so hard to capture Magic the way they captured it last year and the way even Atlanta captured it in the playoffs. It's not often you're going to be able to make that run the way they did, where you give up 0 goals from the run of play and your right back scores as many goals as you gave up through the entire playoffs. But south of Atlanta, I mean, is Dome Toronto the move in New York City? Do they bounce back? How does Red Bulls bounce back? Like, it's there for DC. So, like, initially I'm at 3 or 4. That might change. That might change quick.
Yeah, I mean, if they get Lucas Rodriguez, I'm going in with an Eastern Conference power ranking of Atlanta 1, Red Bull 2, DC 3. And then beyond that, I'm not sure yet. I think there's other moves that will shape it. One move that could have a hand in shaping it, although I'm not sure how big of a move this is actually going to end up being. Chicago's linked to a center back, Marcelo, out of Sporting Lisbon. Brazilian, 29 years old. He's valued at €3 million, but he's not playing this year. He was new to the club in the summer and hasn't really stuck. Came over from Brazil. Reports out of Portugal have it as a $500,000 deal. So, it's got risk in it, but if it's a $500,000 deal, that's not crazy money. That's worth the risk on a player who, if you like him, you think he fits in your system, okay, it could work. Could also be a huge failure. But Chicago has to try to get another center back. They have not been able to get settled in the back at all for a long time now. And I don't know what the Fire are going to be next. Does Paunovic, if he gets this 3-year deal that he's been linked to, is he going to start building for 3 years, or is he going to start trying to win now because it's probably Schweinsteiger's last season? I don't know who the Fire are in 2019.
And to your point, the 500,000 isn't 1.2 plus another 1.2.
No, but I mean, even if it was, I'd feel better about this guy than a guy out of Sweden whose primary experience is with a team that's in the 2nd division in Scotland. I mean, if you were going to spend 1.2 on this player and give him 1.2 in salary and compare him to the other one, and you're talking the same money, Marcelo, with a Brazilian pedigree, is going to be rated higher, flat out.
But no, I honestly, much like the folks who we anticipate finishing below them in the standings in the East, and did in 2018. I still have more questions than I do answers when it comes to Chicago. I mean, you can look at every team in the East and sit there, and there's going to be that one question, or at least a series of questions. And for me, for Chicago, it's the combination of Paunovic and Rodriguez, and then everybody getting a year older, and then filling the holes that you have. For me, that's the Chicago questions, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Cincinnati is another intriguing one, where they end up finishing. The Alvis Powell talk that we talked about a good bit around the expansion draft time. There were reports out of Portland that Alvis Powell would be moving to Cincinnati. It didn't happen. Taylor Twellman tweeted yesterday that he could be on the back line for Cincinnati, so it sounds like it's going to go down. That gives them a very good back line. I mean, when you're talking about Kendall Waston, you're talking about Greg Garza, you're talking about Alvis Powell, and either Matthew Deplagne, the French center back they've signed, or Forrest Lasso if he wins the spot.
Yeah,
that's a good defense. And we'll see if Fernando Adi and the rest of this group can score enough goals to be dangerous. But this seems like a solid Cincinnati team. I don't understand the negativity looking at what Cincinnati is doing that I'm seeing from a lot of people around the country. Is it Atlanta? No. But it's far better than Minnesota. It's
Yes.
a little more solid to me than what we saw out of LAFC. It doesn't have as much on the high end, but it has much more in the middle. I think they'll be solid. I think they'll be a solid team, and if things come together, they could compete for a playoff spot.
I mean, last time I checked, if the team that you're playing doesn't score any goals on you, you at least get out of the game with a point every single time. And you look at what they've assembled back there, and then obviously, you look at Adi, you look at Alache, and you look at the other pieces that they've kept from USL, which I play for places in the 18 and possibly occasionally a starting position. But I like what Cincinnati is building right now, and they're just trying to do their thing. They're not trying to be somebody else. And I think that if things fall right for FCC, I think they could be in the discussion for possibly sneaking in, but things would really have to go right for them. For them to be in the discussion for the 7. I don't think they're going to be at the bottom of the table. And obviously I don't think they're going to be at the top of the table. But I think they're going to be in that gaggle that's fighting for 7. And I'm looking forward to seeing how things are going to continue to be assembled for this bunch. Right now, they're being FC Cincinnati. They're not trying to be somebody else. And they're building it their way. And I give them a boatload of credit for doing that and trying to establish their own identity as opposed to trying to be something that they're not.
And we'll finish up with the team who probably has the biggest question marks coming into 2019 in the East, and it's Toronto. Big feature in the Toronto Sun about their plans to bounce back in 2019, and Bill Manning, team president, said this: "We want to win now. If you look at the group of players we have and their ages, we're set to win now. That's really important for this group of players right now. They have a window of opportunity to win, and we see it. Bradley, Giovinco, Altidore, all their deals are up at the end of 2019. This does kind of feel like a last ride scenario for Toronto. And I think they're going to be kind of bold and trying to find pieces to complement that. This is their last big chance to win with this group, and I think they're going to throw everything at it. So, for me, I would probably say they're the number 3 coming into the Eastern Conference this year as it stands right now. If Lucas Rodriguez happens for DC, I think they jump them just because of the questions about Toronto's age and how they bounce back. But Toronto could move back up very quickly, and Toronto could end up being the challenger for Atlanta at the top of the East.
Agree. And to your point about the big 3 and their contracts being done in 2019, do you risk the last ride in keeping all 3 of them until the bitter end, or is there a point where you just sit there and go, okay, let's try to get what we can for one or a couple of them if things aren't going the way that they would want, so that way you're not just left holding the bag and letting them go on a free.
You're not going to get anything for 30-year-old guys. Like, this is not Miguel Almiron we're talking about. This is Sebastian Giovinco at 31 years old. This is Michael Bradley at 30. This is Josie Altidore at 20. Altidore is the one with probably the most value at 28, 29. That would be the one I'd be tempted to maybe. But right now you don't have another forward. So, the flip side for Toronto is that, look, this is not the NFL or the NBA in terms of the window shut and that's it. When you can go find pieces to open windows in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different countries around the world, and you have the money to do it with, go to it. So if you let their contracts ride and they don't re-sign, bye. Go sign another one. There's nothing stopping you. There's not a limit of talent. So Josie Altidore would be the one that, because of what he said and because of the value that he has, it might be worth it to consider a move. The other two, I think you roll the dice. Because who's going to spend a whole bunch of money for Sebastian Giovinco with 1 year left on his deal right now? Nobody. Not when you can wait 6 months and sign him on a pre-contract. At his age, you're not going to spend it. So for Toronto, this is where they are. This is their opportunity. They're going to put everything into this year. They're going to see what they can get out of it. And then 2020 is 2020. And if you have to replace Bradley and Giovinco, well, you got 2 designated player slots to replace them with. You can spend whatever you want. So it's not going to affect you in terms of building a roster, period. Josie's the one that's interesting. And we've heard the rumors about Mexico before. If there's any legitimacy to him and you're talking being able to get $5 million in for him, that's tempting. But you don't have another forward at the moment. Toussaint Ricketts is not under contract for 2019. And he's not a starter at this level. If you're able to flip it and go get somebody quickly, that would be worth consideration. But why would you throw 2019 in the trash to maybe try to be better in 2020? When in 2019, you've got 3 of the best players in the league together to play. That doesn't make any sense because you can always deal with 2020 in 2020. This is not the Saints like kicking the salary cap issues down the road until they finally get lucky enough to hit on it. It's not other sports because Toronto can go take the money that they've put into Giovinco and Bradley in terms of salary and spend twice as much if they want and replace them in that spot. So you just deal with it. That's where you're at. That's the route Toronto took. So you have to see it out. I think if you deviate from it now, you're going to potentially make it worse. Well, I think you would definitely make it worse in 2019. In a year where, look, if you're looking at the Eastern Conference, outside of Atlanta, who's your competition? If Toronto gets back to their 2017 form, there's no other competition besides Atlanta. So you go for it. You go for what you have, and you go for what you have in place now instead of questioning maybe we can move somebody and get something and then replace it. No. You take what you got, and you go and ride it as far as you can with it. Let's take a break. We'll take more of your Wall Pass Wednesday questions after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apollinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apollinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apollinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Wall Pass Wednesday edition on Boxing Day. Soccer Down here. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith with you this morning, taking your questions about 2019 MLS, U.S. national team, wherever you want to take it. We've been talking about Toronto and what they're looking at in 2019 as potentially a last ride of the golden generation of Giovinco, Altidore, and Bradley. John, you had a follow-up. What was it?
Yeah, basically, so then if you were Tim Bezbatchenko last season with how things were in the standings, would you have started scrapping things with the big three last year, being at the bottom of the table, instead of having what you're presented with this year?
Why? What would you have been able to get? Like, what do you think you could have gotten?
Well, I mean, with Giovinco and all of a healthy Giovinco, what, you send him back to Serie A, you send him to Liga MX?
Who's going to pay what? Who's? It's not about you could send him somewhere. What would you get for him? Like, ballpark. What do you think?
What, a couple million?
Okay. You get a couple million for Sebastian Giovinco. You know what that does for you? Diddly squat. Because in a transfer deal like this, you're going to recoup what you spent on the transfer and salary. So say you get $3 million. Say you get $5 million. Okay. You're just going to pocket that back, and you're going to get $5 million back. I mean, yeah, you get $5 million back. That's nice. I don't know if Toronto's hurting for $5 million. It doesn't seem like it. Is it worth getting $5 million in your wallet in this situation for selling a player that you can't replace? That you're not going to be able to replace. You're going to completely give up on your 2017 season where you were still fighting for a playoff spot until after that window closed in the summer. And potentially give up on 2019 because are you going to be able to replace him in that upcoming window with a player of like quality over some cash? I think Toronto's in the same situation as Atlanta. They don't have to sell. They're not trying to balance the books with this deal. If they were, then yes, you make that deal. Absolutely. You sell it, you pack it in, you rebuild for another day. Toronto's not trying to balance the books here. So you're not going to get anything out of it. You're going to get your money back. You're going to be able to put some allocation money in. And then you could sign somebody for whatever you want to sign them for because Giovinco is a designated player. What does it really change? What does it do for you? Nothing. Zero. So unless it's a big offer, I don't think there's a point. I mean, even Altidore at this point, going into the last year of the deal, it'd have to be $5 million for me to even think about it. And then I'd also have to know that I've got another forward on deck. Because otherwise, why? There's no reason. Zero.
And for me, that was the underlying thought is that, you bring in another player who is younger that can get you working toward 2019 and beyond as you're phasing the big three out.
Yeah, they brought Jermaine Defoe in. That was supposed to be a bloody big deal, wasn't it? That worked.
Yep.
Doesn't always work that way. We know better than this. You can't say that, well, I've got this group that won everything possible for me in 2017, and yeah, there's been some injuries and we struggled this year, but screw it. Let's just pack it in and sell people and we can replace them easily. Doesn't work that way. You never know how chemistry is going to work. You never know how people are going to fit. That's a huge risk to take the best big three in MLS history and say, just break it up. It's all good. We'll take a few $1 million here. There are pieces out there, sure. And that comes with risk. And when I've got the best big three in history, I'm probably going to ride that out unless I'm getting stupid money for them. And you're not going to get that for 30-year-old players. You're not getting Miguel Almiron money for Sebastian Giovinco. You're not getting anywhere near it. And definitely not now in the last year of a contract. And not even last summer. So that's the business. These are the decisions you make when you build a roster. But that would be asinine for Toronto to do that and think, we'll just go sign new guys. They who was it they tried to sign last year that worked out so splendidly? Agur Akeche?
Agur Akeche, yeah.
Yeah, they loaned him back to a second division team in Spain because it was going so well. You never know. You can do all the scouting right. You can look at the pedigree. You can say, this is the guy. This is going to help us. He just might not fit. He might get homesick. He might not get along with the players around him. He might just not fit in the style of play. He might not get along with the coach. All these things that you don't know until you're there. That's the risk you run. And when you have something special, I think you keep it as long as you can. And in Toronto's situation, that's the way they were built, was to do that. So it'd be silly to move on from it at this point. And it would have been silly last year, too.
Sydney 17s. Let's see. So if it's morning here, was it night there? It's like tomorrow night. Is that right?
I'm
trying to figure out
far into the future. Tomorrow night. How do we go all the way into the 27th?
International Dateline.
I know the international dateline, John, but I didn't think it was that far ahead.
Well, I don't know. That's why I was asking.
That's why I'm saying. I think that's a little much.
Sydney 17's asking, when does the new gaffer meet the team, and when do they start training?
Training camp starts January 14th. Don't know when he meets the team, probably on that date as a unit, just because they're not here. And he's not here. He's got to get his visa sorted out and all of the paperwork things. So January 14th is the start of training camp, according to the club.
So that would be the 15th down in Sydney, Australia.
I guess.
I'm trying to do my international dateline math.
Yeah, it's Thursday morning in Australia.
Okay,
it's not
so
Thursday night. That's what I was saying. That's too many hours.
Okay, so the morning of the 15th in January is when they would be meeting if you're a member of the Sydney 17s.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. What else is going on in the rumor mill?
That's most of the rumors. Dalton had a follow-up. How do you think De Boer balances youth versus results? Is Bello the starting left back, or does someone new come in? I don't think someone new comes in, because if it's not Bello, it's Ambrose. If it's not Ambrose, it's Jose Hernandez. You got three young-ish guys there. I don't think you're going to go get another left back. I think that's why you traded Greg Garza, because of the three young guys coming through. So it's hard to say. I mean, a lot of it is going to depend on how the youth responds to De Boer, how the youth responds to what he's asking for, which will be different. And that's always a conversation with young players, is how do they adjust to change? Because, these guys have had one professional manager in their career. Okay, now they have a different. And he's probably going to ask them to do some different things. Are they gonna get that quickly? Maybe a Mikey Ambrose gets it quicker and he's the guy early on and Bello grows into it. Could be. I could easily see that. I think Bello will be given every chance to earn the spot. I really do. And it's going to be down to him and his performances to earn that spot. How does he balance youth versus results? Results are going to take the priority. I think especially early in Champions League, results are going to be the key. Youth are going to get games in the league around that time because they're going to have to. And once the Champions League run is over, and then you can kind of reassess who's performed well, who hasn't, you move on. And you go with the group that is playing the best. But I think youth is going to be given every chance to earn time.
And as going back into DeBoer with what he was able to do with every aspect from academy and building up forward. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing the development from the younger players and seeing them get more experience and get acclimated into systems and things like that. That's for me is the number one thing I'm looking at. I want to see how things develop from the younger sides and building their way up to the top team.
Yeah, that's a bigger question. And when you start talking academy and second team and how all that looks as a result of DeBoer here, I think that'll take time. As we saw last year, I mean, the second team didn't always look like the first team, but at times it did. It's going to be depending on who's available and who's ready and who has specific goals and questions going into a match. I mean, there was a run last year where it was, we like John Gallagher in the back. We want to keep seeing him there. So, okay, you're going to keep playing him in the back. So you're going to have to figure out a shape that works for him to see what you can get out of him there and down the road. That's going to happen with the second team. That's going to happen with the academy team at certain times too. So it's all about building. And with the first team, I don't think Frank DeBoer is going to sacrifice results for youth, but I think you will see youth pushed into positions and be given that opportunity to succeed. And then it's going to be down to them to earn it. Thanks to our buddy Howard with Soccer Metrics. Sydney is 16 hours ahead, John.
Thank you, Howard.
I think you were trying to put them 30-something hours ahead, like the Earth had gotten bigger.
Well, maybe some days the Earth does get bigger. I don't know.
John, don't.
I got an A in world geography. I didn't get an A in math.
No, don't start going flat Earth or something on us. Just say thank you, Howard. 16 hours and move on.
What did I say? I said thank you, Howard, off the top.
Yeah, and then you were trying to say maybe the Earth does get bigger, and I thought you were going to go flat Earth on us.
No, I'm not Steph Curry.
I don't think it's Steph. Isn't it somebody else?
Wasn't it moon landings? Steph Curry was talking about?
I don't remember Steph saying crazy
J.R.
stuff
Smith.
like that. Maybe he did. J.R. Smith would say crazy stuff. Somebody was going flat Earth. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Russell Westbrook or somebody. But anyway, it's 16 hours ahead, and now we know.
Liverpool is leading Newcastle 1-0. Manchester City is tied right now 1-1 with Leicester City.
That's our Boxing Day results at the moment. Serie A has a full slate as well. We're going to take our final break, come back, more of your questions to finish up a Wall Pass Wednesday. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo. Do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apollinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apollinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apollinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Final segment, Soccer Down Here. The den of sickness is enveloping us all, I think except for Jarrett somehow.
I'm still good. Like, I made it through a baby being sick. I made it through a 2-year-old being sick and didn't get sick. And my wife got sick and I didn't get sick.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That's just wrong. I hope you made her all the soup and whatever else she needed to deal with being sick.
But she just wants to sleep, and I had that covered. Like one day last week, I took the kid the entire day and I made her food, let her sleep, took care of her. Yeah,
you're a good man, Jarrett Smith.
That's depends on who you talk to.
I know, but that's pretty
opinion's
good.
Vary.
It's true.
I think I mostly I just felt bad because I didn't get sick.
Yeah, you should feel bad about not getting sick because I feel at least a little bit better that it seems like everybody on my timeline on Twitter is like, yep, I'm sick. Yep, I've been sick. Yep, I'm sick. It sucks. Maybe one day I will not be coughing up fits of coughing and blowing my nose 75 times a day, which is probably underselling it. Maybe one day, but not today. So,
no.
Jarrett,
while you were away, you brought some news back to the mix while we were in the break from our buddy Doug Robertson at the AJC. You want to share?
Yeah, so go read Doug's article, and as you're typing it in and pulling it up, surely you'll have a typo or two. It seems like Atlanta United's representatives are reaching out to Joseph Martinez about a new contract, which is a smart decision because when a guy scores 30 goals for you and has vocally said he would like to stay here, you should reach out to him and make him as comfortable as possible. Negotiations are a long process sometimes. Sometimes they get kind of weird, but this is the right move to make. And if Joseph wants to stay and own every record and potentially get a statue, then Joseph should stay, own every record, and potentially get a statue. So it sounds like they're beginning those negotiations again, though it could take a long time.
Statue and a sandwich.
Well, I'd hope he's gotten all the sandwiches he wants, but if a
they're going to
statue
name
needs
something
to
after
be
it.
Name a sandwich
needs
after
to
him.
be negotiated into this deal, do it. I'd put a statue on the table for this deal. He's under contract for a few more years. This is not a situation where like he's going into the last year of his deal or anything like that. This is very proactive. It's very smart for somebody that, like Jarrett said, is somebody who wants to be here and somebody who's in a different position than Miguel and other players who want to see what Europe could give them. He's been there and done that. I honestly think the biggest thing to him outside of Atlanta United's success right now is getting Venezuela to the World Cup. And it's going to be easier for him to do that playing here. It absolutely will be. It's not affecting his quality of play. He's playing better than he's ever played in his career. And to be able to deal with less travel, to support his national team and try to get them to their first ever World Cup, which I think is doable with the generations of talent that have come through in Venezuela. That's a lot. And I think that's a key thing here. So that factors in. I think that makes it far more likely that Joseph stays in Atlanta for a long time.
Yeah, I think so as well. And, like I said, there's a good chance that Joseph, but I hope by the time Joseph makes it, like the statue land, we have like gift statues or gift statues for you heathens and Philistines out there.
GIF. What? You want like a hologram statue?
Yeah, like a hologram statue, and it's just a hologram repeated of Joseph jogging after he scores and then stopping at the line and staring into the middle distance. Or you can do the little where he puts out the blunt. He did the celebration.
Now, we don't know it was that. It could have been a cigarette or a Black and Mild or
it could have been something
cigar.
else, but we're just, until we know for sure, we're just going to take it for that, I think.
Wow.
I think Oren had a religious experience running the board that day when it happened.
I know he did. We do have some clarification. We had a bit of a debate in the last segment. It was Kyrie Irving who was flat Earth, not Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Steph Curry was the moon landing was fake guy, but then he recanted. And that's thanks to Joe, ATLUTD fan number 1, for clarifying. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, it's
James McClatchy.
Kyrie is flat Earth, and Kyrie, by the way, was born in Australia. So,
yes,
nice.
James McClatchy, guys, is confused about how Frank DeBoer might work with the academy. Does this mean someone like Tony Annan, who's been coaching for over 20 years, is going to have to change his approach?
Tony Annan's a guy who's learned over the years. That's the thing about coaching is you never stop learning and evolving. Tony was one of the first in the United States to go take the French coaching course that was a partnership between MLS and the French Federation. And I mean, I know from talking to Tony that, brought a lot of different things to his game. So if you've been around the game for 20 years and you're afraid of learning and evolving, you're going to fall by the wayside. That's just a fact. Look back 20 years ago. So what we're talking 1998. Go look at a game from 1998 and look at a game now and tell me how different it is. The game's completely changed. So if you're coming in and playing, coaching, acting the same way as you did 20 years ago, you're going to get left in the dust. You're probably going to be Greenock Morton. That's what's going to happen.
I'm glad the Greenock Morton has been adopted as SDH's Scottish club. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen here. But yeah, I mean the game constantly evolves, and the good managers do that, the good coaches do that, and Tony's one who's absolutely done that. And yeah, I mean if you're in a club, that's the thing about being in a professional club. When the manager changes, things do change a little bit. You don't want them to change dramatically, and that's not the case here. I think we worry way too much about everything's going to be so different. It's not. It's not. They value possession. The Dutch game values possession. The Dutch game, go back and look at his Ajax teams. It was all about combination play in the final third. How many times have we seen Miguel Almiron and Joseph Martinez and Tito Villalba lay it off to one another in the final third? I mean, that's how they play. It's not going to be this dramatic difference in style. It's really not. So from the academy side of it, it's not. You're not bringing in somebody here to change the way Atlanta United plays. You're bringing in somebody to update how Atlanta United plays. That's a very different thing. So will those updates take place in the academy as well? With the older teams, yeah, who are closer to playing professionally, yep, it will, because they have to be ready for that.
John Nason coming in this morning. Did you see Rafa Benitez indicate that avoiding relegation would be a miracle for Newcastle this year? Anyone mention this to Miggy yet?
He's not dumb. I mean, I'm sure he knows what it's looking like, and I'm sure he also knows what potential impact he could have. And I mean, that's the facts. I don't think
Mike Ashley'd have to spend money.
Look, I mean, we can keep finding things that are negative about it, but right now this seems to be the best offer that's on the table and the best place for him to go play. I don't know why you'd want him to go somewhere and not play.
At this point as well, I think we have to remember that it's still December 26th, and they don't have to talk about offers at this point. Nothing really matters right now.
West Ham has been mentioned. There were more rumor reports linking Arsenal to it, but there was really nothing behind it that I could see. So,
you want to spin your wheels on it, that's your business. But
yeah,
just wait for the new year and wait for it to settle itself one way or another.
Look, the thing about Newcastle is this. If you're going to be short-sighted about it, yeah, Mike Ashley doesn't spend a lot of money, and yeah, this team's not in a great spot right now. But is there another team in England that could go from where they are to being a contender in the Premier League that's not there right now, like Newcastle? I don't think there is. And if Ashley sells the team like he is, I mean, it feels like it's getting closer to happening. They're the club. They're the one that could make that jump up. I don't think there's anybody else. Who is not a powerhouse in England that could become a powerhouse? Who has the infrastructure to do it?
I think there are 3 distinct groups in the Premier League. You have the big 5, sometimes 6. You have that middle group from 6 or 7 to 12 or 13. And then you have the group that is 13 or 14 down to the bottom. I think that Newcastle, if Rafa Benitez stays, could be on the verge of that top 6 or 7. But that's if he stays and if he's given the resources that he's looking for.
Well, of course. That's
West
what I'm
Ham,
saying. Yeah. Of course.
West Ham could go middle of the pack, high middle of the pack. And I think that with the injuries that they've had when it comes to their strike force, I think that, Miggy could do well there. And you're learning under Pellegrini at West Ham. You're learning under Rafa Benitez at Newcastle. So I think that Benitez is saying what he's saying, that there are teams that are far worse than Newcastle who will be relegated. Obviously, we all think Fulham's going to be one of them, and there's like 4 or 5 others, but I don't think Newcastle is worse enough to be relegated this year. But I think that Benitez is saying some of that just to light a fire under folks.
But that's not what I'm getting into. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, okay, out of that top 6, is anybody in that top 6 that you don't see staying in that top 6? I don't think there is. I think the top 6 is the top 6.
Yep.
Who is outside of the top 6 that you could see becoming part of a top 7? I think the only one is Newcastle.
Yeah, if Benitez stays, yes.
Well, yeah, if Benitez goes and you hire somebody else that is at that level, it's a different thing. I'm just saying that the infrastructure is there for Newcastle to be a top club. That's why from day one, when we started talking about clubs that could spend this type of money and would actually get the value out of it, Newcastle was the one I kept zeroing back to. That's not to say it's going to work. It's not to say it's perfect. I'm saying it could be the one. Because I don't think there's another club, and I don't think West Ham is there, that could become an elite Premier League team that is not currently. I think Newcastle is the one that could if they do things correctly, and that's a big if.
Right.
But they could. Nobody else could. There's nobody else in England that could be what Newcastle could be. And that's what I keep coming back to, and that's why I could see them taking this chance, especially if the ownership is looking like it might change. And that's probably the biggest key, is if that's going to go down, if there's just a matter of time, whatever, I think it's far more likely for Miguel Almiron to go there and for him to find success, even if they have to take a step back. I don't think they're going to, but if they had to, doesn't mean his career's ruined. Not at all, because they're one that would bounce straight back up. But we'll see. It's December 26th. The transfer window opens January 1st and runs through all of January. So buckle up. It's going to be one of those months ahead of us where lots of rumors are going to happen. I think Atlanta United would like to get things done soon, but they might not be able to, and they might have to deal with drama and nonsense and silly season madness, and that's just how it goes. I think Jill Robbins is absolutely correct in this. Instead of a sandwich,
I was going to ask you about this.
Well, it would be an arepa for Joseph. It'd have to be. You're not going to make him a sandwich. I mean, unless he wants a sandwich, and if he does, then cool, you do whatever Joseph wants, because he's the king, as he says. But you would probably start with an arepa, yes.
I'm good with everything.
Yeah. So now
we need. Like you said.
Yeah. Yes.
Joseph's going to get his own donut at Sublime, isn't he?
If he wants a donut, if he wants a fritter, if he wants whatever, he gets it.
I mean, wouldn't he? I mean, if you had, so he gets an arepa, he gets a statue, he gets a fire-breathing statue, is Joseph sitting on top of the Falcon? And which one is the fire breathing part? Is it Joseph or is it the Falcon?
Joseph gets his own statue. He doesn't have to sit on top of another statue, and he doesn't have to do anything about fire breathing, because I've never seen Joseph breathe fire, except for that one time he almost burned his eyebrows off, and luckily that hasn't happened again.
No.
So
that is
just
correct.
A statue of Joseph being a badass is all that is needed.
I think that's how we knew that this team was different than classic quote-unquote Atlanta teams, because a classic quote-unquote Atlanta team, the star striker would have jumped into the fire and burned himself, and that would have been the end of the line. Joseph got right up to the edge and fell back and didn't get burned. I think that was kind of I think that might have been our first clue.
Personification of the whole thing?
Yeah,
I think that might have been our first clue this ain't.
Dale Murphy sliced his hand open on the outfield wall at Atlanta Fulton County, and it ended up costing him his consecutive game streak, even though he did come off the bench the next night and hit a home run as a pinch hitter to keep the streak going. But he sliced his hand open on the stupid outfield wall at Atlanta Fulton County. Joseph was not injured. So, yes, that was definitely the difference.
Absolutely forgot about that.
My favorite one is still a couple of years ago when Trevor Bauer, pitching for the Cleveland Indians, had to come out of a game because his hand was bleeding because he had chopped his hand open playing with a drone on his day off, and he couldn't pitch in a playoff game.
Oh, that's just stupid.
Might have been an ALCS game.
Yeah, no, that's just being a dummy. This was your own stadium hurting you, and yeah, luckily it didn't happen to Joseph. I think that's it for a show, y'all. We will be back tomorrow on a Thursday Thoughts edition of the show. We'll see what happens on a Boxing Day in MLS. There's been lots of discussion about moves. We'll see what goes down. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock on the SDH app, on soccerdownhere.net, and on Spreaker. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.